insanely complicated rules, mysterious rich sugar daddies,
I'm a sugar daddy.
and trading players like their Pokemon cards. Welcome to the MLS, where I will be taking over as manager of DC United for one season. Will we reach the American dream and top the league, or will we crash and burn? Let's find out. The first thing I had to do as manager was set up my team. I stole a tactic like it was the Declaration of Independence and hit the races. I settled on a trendy 4-2-3-1 formation, which I thought would be extra saucy in the attacking third. Looking over my team, though, it seemed like we had a few gaping holes to fill. We essentially could use a new studly player in each role: an attacker, a midfielder, a defender, and certainly, and most importantly, a goalie. But little did I know how difficult this would be. Nevertheless, we pressed on to our intra-squad friendly, first team versus second. As expected, we handedly won this match 3-2, where our goalie let in an embarrassing goal, which would not be his last. What was our goalie doing? After our intra-squad friendly, I checked my inbox to find a letter from the President of the United States of America.
Dear Mr. Breckley, I saw your friendly yesterday. Quite frankly, you guys suck. You're literal hot dog water. Pure trash. I'm sick of watching bad soccer games while I live in the White House. This needs to change. I'm dipping into the ice cream fund to give you a small loan of $5 million to improve the squad. Do not disappoint me. Otherwise, I'm going to get that money back one way or another. I'll be back in contact with you soon. Sincerely, Joe Biden. P.S. Pee pee poo poo ha, I'm a big goofy goober, yeah.
A lot to unpack there. Well, we got cash now. Sheesh! Look at that. 10 million buckaroos. She's like, give me more toys. Use the money to buy me toys. With all this extra cash, we had to make some moves. I hit the transfer market harder than a hobo on a ham sandwich, slinging out a bunch of trials to players I thought would be great additions to the squad. I even attempted to make my very first trade. It failed, which would be a recurring theme of this season. Next, we had a slapping and clapping 9-0 win against African Lyon, the Tanzanian club. I had no idea there was a league in Tanzania, but what do you know? Second, a 5-2 glucking of Simba, another club from Tanzania. What's with all these Tanzanian clubs? And lastly, a 5-2 slacking of Loudon, an affiliate club full of players we were germinating for the future. After these friendlies, we got back to business. We wheeled and dealed the best we could and ending up signing 3 of our trial players. Manetti, our new reliable goalkeeper, the big man between the sticks. Nungare, a defensive midfielder who could add some depth to the engine of our team. And Mendoza, an electric outside midfielder who would be a regular starter in our lineup. We even went ahead and made our first trade of the season. We traded a butt ton of general allocation money for rock-solid center back Hedges, who would immediately be a starter for our team. This seemed like an incredible move, but it would come back to haunt us very soon. Next were our final friendlies, a string of 3 games against MLS teams, a chance to test our squad against equal caliber matchups which we could expect this season. We had a 3-0 shucking of LAFC. I'll tell you what, Hedges gives some good head. Look at that. A 1-0 beating of Charlotte FC. Woo! And a 2-0 loss to Chicago FC. 2 solid wins against MLS competition. I couldn't be upset. Needless to say, I was raring to go, ready to have our 4
tough, corn-fed, beefy squad of all-American men
and some international players
teach this league who is their daddy.
I went in to lock my team, giddy as all get up, but I was mortified. Oh no. We had 2 too many designated players, meaning I had to make the harsh decision to drop Benteke and Paulson, 2 of our best players for the season, in favor of Clich and Fountas. I was absolutely distraught, but I did what had to be done. What is anything anymore? While the season hadn't even begun, this felt like the beginning of the end. The competition wasn't what I had to watch out for. It was the pitiful hot dog water regulations. They were out to get me, just waiting right around the corner. This is going to be a rough season. Nevertheless, we pressed on to our first official MLS match against Charlotte FC, a team who we had just beat 2-1 in the preseason. Woo!
we kept up this great form and shoved a 2-0 victory right up their pie holes. An exciting start to the season. We followed this up with a decent 1-1 tie against Cincinnati. I was a little bitter that we didn't snag the win, but 4 points in our first 2 matches was nothing to scoff at. Now, it was back to business. I tried to do my absolute best to wheel and deal, offering trade after trade after trade, slinging out tons of contracts, and trying my best to sign quality players. I realized, though, I had shot myself in the foot when I spent all of our general allocation money right off the rip on hedges. General allocation should have been used to buy back the salary impact of players on the team to make space for better, more expensive ones. Instead, we were stuck having to find the lowest wage random players I could find because we didn't have enough room under the cap. Thankfully, though, I managed to muster up a pretty decent signing. I snagged Barrero, a first-team quality attacking midfielder who would be a regular starter for our team. Still, though, we had a glaring hole in our defensive midfield, and we're desperate for talent. We barely squeaked Barrero under the salary cap and then went on the hunt for a CDM. I managed to sign Eder Bessa,
If I sign this guy, I have no idea if I can register.
who would have been a stud, but I couldn't register him due to the salary cap, and he ended up immediately being released by the club, literally wasting our money. How does that work? Nevertheless, we pushed forward with our next 2 MLS matches. We had a wildly close match with Chicago full of BS offside calls by the crooked referee.
Come on, come on, come on. No.
Our new signing, though, still managed to snag a goal and seal the deal on a well-deserved victory.
Our new signing did amazing. Good work, my dude.
Next, though, we had a stinker of a game. We came up against Toronto FC, the wily Canadians from up north. They took a break from playing hockey to puck us up in a 2-0 loss. Get it? Puck? Hockey?
That was not good. Now we're down at 4th.
Anyways, I received a juicy offer in our inbox. A whopping $750,000 general allocation money in exchange for a banging right back Juan. I was torn on what to do, but in the end, I decided to take the money.
Send it.
We had other right backs, and I could use this GA money to beef up our defensive midfield. With my newfound heavy pockets, I slung out loads of trade offers and attempted signings, but I wouldn't hear back from them until later on. In the meantime, though, we had a slew of games to push through. They started out rough and tough. We had a grueling match, closer than me and your mother. They scored. We clapped back. They scored again. And then we had a fit of rage and slammed one of their players down, earning a well-deserved red card.
He just bottled it for us.
Thankfully, our big American boys dug deep within and pulled out a lucky goal before the end of the match, a 2-2 tie. Hog. Next, we came head-to-head with New York City FC. This game was eerily similar. They scored, and then we clapped back. And then our goalie flubbed up big time, heading the ball directly to them for an easy-peasy goal.
What was that?
A 2-1 loss. Mamma mia, no bueno. This disappointing string of games lit a fire under the butts of our big lads. They went into the next match angry, ready to deliver a knuckle sandwich. Hold the sandwich. We were off to the races against Austin FC. We pinged in back-to-back goals, bagging an easy 2-0 victory. Then, we brought this same energy to New England, where we jerked and gurked and worked them 3-0. Zooey ma, it was a delicious match.
That trickled in.
This swinging momentum came just in time for the first match of the U.S. Cup, where we were facing Flint City, a team from a lower American division. We rotated the squad a bit so some boys could earn their sea legs, and thankfully, we could field the designated players we were unable to roster in the MLS since this was a different competition. Hoggers, a rowdy group of blokes, handled Flint like nobody's business, tossing them around in a juicy 3-1 victory that sent us into the next round, where we drew Philadelphia Union, a much better team. But before that, we had the last few days of the transfer window to perfect the art of the deal. Thankfully, I was the CEO of Big Money Moves and managed to steal 2 new defensive midfielders at bargain prices. As Valdo Alonso, a beautiful big bald man, and Augustus Farias, now one of our top players. Thankfully, I was able to use that general allocation money that we traded for prior to register the both of them.
Our team's looking spicy now.
These guys would slot right in and be immediate starters on our team. After that, though, the transfer window slammed shut and it was time to kick some balls and ping some dingers. We began with a disappointing 1-0 loss to Columbus, where the only goal was a penalty kick. But then, we returned to the US Cup against Philadelphia, raring to go. This would be no easy match, and a surprisingly difficult team to draw this early on. Our big group of lads took to the field and played like their lives depended on it.
Yeah!
We scored goal after goal after goal in a match that even had our assistant manager Bunny cheering for more. This 3-0 victory launched us into the next round of the US Cup against New York City FC. But between now and then, we had MLS games to blast through. We squared off with Houston in a match we absolutely should have won. But disappointingly, we tied, even with them getting a spicy red card. Then, we took the gang to sunny Miami, where we dropped a sweaty 1-0 victory on them. Sweet. And just like that, we were back to the US Cup, where we were set to face off against NYCFC. This was set to be a certified hood classic of a match. We scrapped together a banging group of lads and got to work. NYC hit the races guns a-blazing. They popped in a cheeky goal. We had loads and loads of chances, but they yucked in another, and then a third as a cherry on top.
3 goals off of set pieces?
I was absolutely gutted, embarrassed. We were already knocked out of the US Cup. Pitiful. Needless to say, the water bottle was looking awful cute, and I sent that sucker flying. Yeet! And we pressed on. I wasn't the only one who was upset, though. I returned to a fiery letter in my inbox from the president.
Correctly. Are you pulling my dick right now? This better be a joke. My grandma can play better soccer than that. You are garbage manager and your team is literal trash. You took my cheddar and made a fool of me. What am I? Some kind of joke to you? I am taking my money back. I'd rather spend that money on double chocolate chunk ice cream and a new bicycle. Sincerely, Joe Biden. P.S. You get no bitches. Never have, never will.
Wow. That sucks. Thought he was a fan. I guess he giveth and he taketh away. I guess we're going to have to get crafty with signings the next transfer window.
Not only that, our team was in shambles. Paulson was whining and moaning about how I threw the water bottle. What a little namby-pamby. Nonetheless, we returned to the MLS, where we had a gackle of games to swim through. First, we took to the land of maple syrup up north and hit the ground running against Toronto. And when I say running, I mean sprinting. We junked and gunked them, popping in 3 goals in just under 30 minutes. Zoo-wee! We banged in 1 more goal to make it a whopping 4-0 victory. Checking the rankings, we were in 2nd place. I couldn't believe it.
I'm pretty good at my job, I guess.
But little did I know, it was all downhill from here. We squared up against the Red Bulls and got goofed up 2-1.
That was an absolute dinger.
Where we got a red card.
Oh, you're throwing the game, man.
And our backup goalie let up a goal that even my grandma could save.
He's just like...
Then, we took it to NYCFC for a rematch in a wild back-and-forth game. There was goal after goal after goal, but not all in our favor.
No.
Our assistant manager, Bunny, comforted me as I watched our team let the game slip away from us. A 4-4 tie wasn't awful, but it wasn't great. It wasn't the revenge I so desperately wanted. After that, we skipped on over to Chicago and got tossed around like a sack of day-old taters. They beat us silly in a 4-1 loss and sent us packing. Then, we took it to Nashville and had our hopes immediately crushed by a 4th-minute red card. They capitalized on this mistake by bagging an easy dinger and 1 more to kick us while we were down. Our team was enraged, letting their inner demons take over and earn 1 more red card before the end of a 2-0 match.
Man, how we have fallen. We were just in 3rd place.
After this stinky run of games, I was informed that we were the worst defending team in the league. Bunny was outraged. Something had to change. Thankfully, the transfer window opened up, giving me a chance to right my wrongs. I tried my absolute best to sign a new defender or 2, but with a salary budget as tight as mine, it was harder than selling ice to an Eskimo. I managed to find a tremendous center back, Anderson Benedito, but after cranking out all the paperwork, the transfer was denied by the board since it would have gone over. They didn't even give me a chance to try and figure it out. While I was trying my darndest between 13 games to make some transfer magic happen, I had to press on with our busy MLS schedule. First, we had a disappointing 1-0 loss to Orlando, where our winger, Mendoza, got a devastating season-ending injury. Wonderful! Then, we took it to Philly, where we showed an inkling, a glimmer of hope. They scored early on, but we clapped back with a dodgy penalty kick. And then, they decided to kick us while we were down and score another. Our next match, though, we played out of our minds. Way better than our recent terrible form. We pinged in 3 goals to make it an easy, cheesy victory.
Big boy.
Maybe our luck was beginning to change? Nope. We finished out this 5-game transfer window streak by losing 2-0 to Minnesota and getting smacked 2-0 again. We were 1 for 4 in our last 5 games. What happened? Was it me? Was I the problem? I knew something had to change, and fast at that. Otherwise, I was at risk of not even making it to the end of the season. I kept trying to force some moves in the transfer market, anything to bring some fresh legs and new looks for the squad, but I just couldn't do it. God damn these regulations. Instead, I decided to hit the drawing board again and revisit our formation. I stole a new formation like it was the last cookie in the cookie jar. I landed on the all too familiar 4-1-3-2 formation from my last video.
Let's get her done.
I figured if we couldn't stop them from scoring, maybe we can just outscore them. Fight fire with fire. That always works, right? We lined up against Orlando with our brand new look. We scored right away. I was ecstatic.
Get that man. Stop that man.
They managed to get one back and wiggle their way into the match like a little snake. But we took that snake and threw it right out the window. We scored again to make it a refreshing 2-1 victory. We stuck with the new formation and continued on our winning form against Charlotte. We scored 2 goals again, and our defense held them to a goose egg, a clean sheet. Maybe this formation was the change we needed after all. Next, we matched up with the Red Bulls and taught them a lesson. We made them look silly in another easy 2-0 win. Then, we had an absolutely wild match with New England, where my hypothesis was put to the test. We banged in a goal, and then they clapped back. And then we popped in another, and they followed suit. Things were looking hairy, but I had faith in our big sweaty lads. We shifted into the next gear and took complete control of the match. Fountas even bagged this dirty long-range dinger when the keeper was rushing him.
Oh, that was an absolute dinger.
Epic. Needless to say, I was a managerial and tactical genius. We went from terrible to tremendous form in just a few short games. Right on time as well, as the forward transfer window slammed shut. Our next match was against LAFC. This game was set to be electric. Right off the rip, right from the start, we were in control. We scored this lightning fast goal, which I learned was officially the fastest goal in DC history. Dope. They clapped back though with the crazy goal of their own. They dribbled coast to coast and banged in a dinger against our goalie. Right after, Pedro Santos got himself a red card to make the match even closer. Then they embarrassed our goalie, juking him, breaking his weak little ankles, and taking a 2-1 lead. Thankfully, we grabbed one more goal to make it a 2-2 tie. Oh! After that, we took it to Philly. We were in 3rd place and they were right above us in 2nd. This was a crucial match. We turned up the heat and got to cooking, screaming in 2 goals to make it a clinical 2-0 victory. This launched us back into 2nd place. Suddenly, a title shot didn't seem too distant after all. We just had to focus on balls and putting them in the net, of course. As the title race was heating up, we had games to blow through. We took it to Atlanta in a 1-1 tie where their goalie made a big old oopsies.
He just kind of like, I'll get it. Oh, don't worry, I'll get it. Oh no!
Then we absolutely decimated Colorado in a brutal 4-1 bashing where our new offensive style was on full display. After that, we beat Real Salt Lake even after getting an early 4th-minute red card. We were quite literally unstoppable. After this match, we had secured ourselves a nice little place in the playoffs. Hoggers. Now, we just needed to climb the rankings and try to get a better seed. Our next match was against Kansas City. We were on them like white on rice, like a bull in the china shop. We beat them up 3-1, making for a crazy 10-game unbeaten streak.
Beautiful.
This wouldn't last forever, though. Before our next match, the transfer window completely slammed shut for good, and the MLS roster freeze was in full effect. Our squad was officially locked in for the rest of the season.
Let's get her done.
Next, we were up against first place Inter Miami. This was a crucial match for us that could sling us into an incredible position prior to playoffs. We continued our big, beautiful, banging form and jacked them off. Jacked them up 3-1.
We're in first place.
We were on an absolute roll. After that, we took it to Montreal. This was a match closer than 2 butt cheeks, 2 balls in a sack. But sadly, we just didn't have it in us. Montreal worked us and sent us packing, ending our 11-game unbeaten run. It was nice while it lasted. For our last regular season MLS game, we returned to Cincinnati. If we won, we'd end up in first place of the Eastern Conference. But due to suspensions and injury, we weren't able to field our best team. Nonetheless, we took to the field and gave it our all. We scored early, and it seemed like we had it in the bag, but unfortunately, we let up a disappointing PK, and Bunny was not too happy.
I'm disappointed too, big girl.
Now, it was playoff time. We drew rivals New York Red Bulls in the first round. We were on fire, raring to go, ready to make a meal out of these snacks. It was not in the cards, though. We got a busted red card and went down a man. Not ideal. The Red Bulls got their wings and capitalized on this, banging in 2 goals to knock us out in the first round. With that, our MLS campaign came to a screeching halt.
But you're in misery. You're in misery.
What a wild, wild run. Now, follow my Twitch stream, you bozos.